Luke chapter 16. The story of the clever manager. Jesus told his disciples another story. He said, "There was a rich man who had a manager. Some said that the manager was wasting what the rich man owned. So the rich man told him to come in. He asked him, 'What is this I hear about you? Tell me exactly how you have handled what I own. You can't be my manager any longer.' The manager said to himself, 'What will I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig. I'm too ashamed to beg. I know what I'm going to do. I'll do something so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses.' So he called in each person who owed his master something. He asked the first one, 'How much do you owe my master?' 'I owe 800 gallons of olive oil,' he replied. The manager told him, 'Take your bill, sit down quickly, and change it to 400 gallons. Then he asked the second one, 'And how much do you owe?' 'I owe 1,000 bushels of wheat,' he replied. The manager told him, 'Take your bill and change it into 800 bushels. The manager had not been honest, but the master praised him for being clever. The people of this world are clever in dealing with those who are like themselves. They are more clever than God's people. I tell you, use the riches of this world to help others. In that way, you will make friends for yourself. Then when your riches are gone, you will be welcomed into your eternal home in heaven. Suppose you can be trusted with very little. Then you can be trusted with a lot. But suppose you are not honest with very little. Then you will not be honest with a lot. Suppose you have not been worthy of trust in handling worldly wealth. Then who will trust you with true riches? Suppose you have not been worthy of trust in handling someone else's property. Then who will give you property of your own? No servant can serve two masters at the same time. He will hate one of them and love the other, or he will be faithful to one and dislike the other. You can't serve God and money at the same time." The Pharisees loved money. They heard all that Jesus said and made fun of him. Jesus said to them, "You try to make yourselves look good in the eyes of other people, but God knows your heart. But God knows your hearts. What is worth a great deal among people is hated by God." More teachings. The teachings of the law and the prophets were preached until John came. Since then, the good news of God's kingdom is being preached, and everyone is trying very hard to enter it. It is easy for heaven and earth to disappear than for the smallest part of a letter to drop out of the law. Anyone who divorces his wife and gets married to another woman commits adultery. Also, the man who gets married to a divorced woman commits adultery. The rich man and Lazarus. Once there was a rich man. He was dressed in purple clothes and fine linen. He lived an easy life every day. A man named Lazarus was placed at his gate. Lazarus was a beggar. His body was covered with sores. Even dogs came and licked his sores. All he wanted was to eat what fell from the rich man's table. That time came when the beggar died. The angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. In hell, the rich man was suffering terribly. He looked up and saw Abraham far away. Lazarus was by his side. So the rich man called out, "Father Abraham, have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water, that he can cool my tongue with it. I am in terrible pain in this fire." But Abraham replied, "Son, remember what happened in your lifetime. You received your good things. Lazarus received bad things. Now he is comforted here, and you are in terrible pain. Besides, a wide space has been placed between us and you. So those who want to go from here to you can't go, and no one can cross over from there to us." The rich man answered, "Then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family. I have 5 brothers. Let Lazarus warn them, then they will not come to this place of terrible suffering." Abraham replied, "They have the teachings of Moses and the prophets. Let your brothers listen to them." "No, Father Abraham," he said, "but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will turn away from their sins." Abraham said to them, "Do not listen to Moses and the prophets, so they will not be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead." Luke chapter 17. Sin, faith, and duty. Jesus spoke to his disciples. Things that make people sin are sure to come, he said, but how terrible it will be for the person who brings them. Suppose people lead one of these little ones to sin. It will be better for those to be thrown into the sea with a millstone tied around their neck. So watch what you do. If your brother sins, tell him he is wrong. Then if he turns away from his sins, forgive him. Suppose he sins against you 7 times in one day, and suppose he comes back to you each time and says, I'm sorry, forgive him. The apostles said to the Lord, give us more faith. He replied, suppose you have faith as small as a mustard seed. Then you can say to the mulberry tree, be pulled up, be planted in the sea, and it will obey you. Suppose one of you had a servant plowing or looking after sheep, and suppose the servant came in from the field. Would you say to him, come along now and sit down to eat? No, instead, you would say, prepare my supper, get yourself ready, wait on me while I eat and drink. Then after that you can eat and drink. Would you thank the servant because he did what he was told to do? It's the same with you. Suppose you have done everything you were told to do, then you should say, we are not worthy to serve you. We have only done our duty. Jesus heals 10 men. Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. He traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men met him. They had a skin disease. They were standing close by, and they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. Jesus saw them and said, go, show yourself to the priest. While they were on the way, they were healed. When one of them saw that he was healed, he came back. He praised God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. The man was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, were all 10 healed? Where are the other 9? Didn't anyone else return and give praise to God except this outsider? Then Jesus said to him, get up and go. Your faith has healed you. The coming of God's kingdom. Once the Pharisees asked Jesus when God's kingdom would come. He replied, the kingdom of God is not something you can see just by watching for it carefully. People will not say, here it is, or there it is. God's kingdom is among you. Then Jesus spoke to his disciples. The time is coming, he said, when you will long to see one of the days of the Son of Man, but you won't see it. People will tell you, there he is, or here he is. Don't go running off after them. When the Son of Man comes, he will be like the lightning. It flashes and lights up the sky from one end to the other. But first, the Son of Man must suffer many things. He will not be accepted by the people of today. Remember how it was in the days of Noah. It will be the same when the Son of Man comes. People were eating and drinking. They were getting married. They were giving their daughters to be married. They did all those things right up to the day Noah entered the ark. Then the flood came and destroyed them all. It was the same in the days of Lot. People were eating and drinking. They were buying and selling. They were planting and building. But on the day Lot left Sodom, fire and sulfur rained down from heaven, and all the people were destroyed. It will be just like that on the day the Son of Man is shown to the world. Suppose someone is on the roof of his house on that day, and suppose his goods are inside the house. He should not go down to get them. No one in the field should go back for anything either. Remember Lot's wife. Anyone who tries to keep his life will lose it. Anyone who loses his life will keep it. I tell you, on that night, 2 people will be in one bed. One person will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding grain together. One will be taken and the other left. Where, Lord? His disciple asked. He replied, the vultures will gather where there is a dead body. Luke chapter 18. The story of the widow who would not give up. Jesus told his disciples a story. He wanted to show them that they should always pray and not give up. He said, in a certain town there was a judge. He didn't have any respect for God or care about people. A widow lived in that town. She came to the judge again and again. She kept begging him, make things right for me. Someone is doing me wrong. Or sometimes the judge refused. But finally, he said to himself, I don't have any respect for God. I don't care about people. But this widow keeps bothering me, so I will see that the things are made right for her. If I don't, she will wear me out by coming again and again. The Lord said, listen to what the unfair judge says. God's chosen people cry out to him day and night. Will he make things right for them? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, God will see that things are made right for them. He will make sure it happens quickly. But when that Son of Man comes, will he find people on earth who have faith? The story of the Pharisee and the tax collector. Jesus told the story to some people who were sure they were right with God. They looked down on everybody else. He said to them, 2 men went up to the hill to pray. One was a Pharisee, the one was a tax collector. The Pharisee stood up and prayed about himself. God, I thank you that I am not like other people, he said. I am not like robbers or those who do evil things. I am not like those who commit adultery. I am not even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood not very far away. He would not even look up to heaven. He beat his chest and said, God, have mercy on me. I am a sinner. I tell you, the tax collector went home accepted by God, but not the Pharisee. Everyone who lifts himself up will be brought down, and anyone who is brought down will be lifted up. Little children are brought to Jesus. People were also bringing babies to Jesus. They wanted him to touch them. When the disciples saw this, they told the people to stop. But Jesus asked the children to come to him. Let the little children come to me, he said. Don't keep them away. God's kingdom belongs to people like them. What I'm about to tell you is true. Anyone who will not receive God's kingdom like a little child will never enter it. Jesus and the rich ruler. A certain ruler asked Jesus a question. Good teacher, he said, what must I do to receive eternal life? Why do you call me good? No one is good except God. You know what the commandments say. Do not commit adultery. Do not commit murder. Do not steal. Do not give false witness. Honor your father and mother. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12 and 6. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 16 and 20. I have obeyed all those commandments since I was a boy, the ruler said. When Jesus heard this, he said to him, You are still missing one thing. Sell everything you have. Give the money to those who are poor. You will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. When the ruler heard this, he became very sad. He was very rich. Jesus looked at him. Then he said, How hard it is for rich people to enter God's kingdom. Is it hard for a camel to go through the eye of a needle? It is even harder for the rich to enter God's kingdom. Those who heard this asked, Then who can be saved? Jesus replied, Things that are impossible with people are possible with God. Peter said to him, We have left everything we had in order to follow you. What I am about to tell you is true. Jesus said to them, Has anyone left home or family for God's kingdom? They will receive many times as much in this world. In the world they can come to, they will live forever. Jesus again tells about his coming death. Jesus took the 12 to one side. He told them, We are going up to Jerusalem. Everything that the prophets wrote about the Son of Man will come true. He will be handed over to people who are not Jews. They will make fun of him. They will laugh at him and spit on him. They will whip him and kill him. On the third day he will rise from the dead. The disciples did not understand any of this. Its meaning was hidden from them, so they didn't know what Jesus was talking about. A blind beggar received his sight. Jesus was approaching Jericho. A blind man was sitting at the side of the road begging. The blind man heard the crowd going by. He asked what was happening. They told him, The Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. So the blind man called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Those who led the way commanded him to stop. They told him to be quiet, but he shouted even louder, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. When the man came near, Jesus spoke to him. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked. Lord, I want to be able to see. The blind man replied. Jesus said to him, Receive your sight, your faith has healed you. Right away he could see. He followed Jesus, praising God. When all the people saw it, they also praised God.